Hey, I'm Anthony Romano, and this video is going to tell you the differences between fat fasting and intermittent fasting. As far as the benefits you'll receive, because it's a very clear difference between them. One of them, you're simply intermittent fasting with nothing that's caloric at all, and the other one is that you consume fats while you're sort of doing that intermittent fast or prolonged fast, but the purpose of this video is going to compare the short time spans. And basically the differences in the benefits you will receive and who should use which form first or last. Now, on this note, I am also doing a ketone giveaway. Rules are in the description. It's very easy. I'm giving away some of the top quality ketone supplements. I only advocate the best high quality usage of supplements, and I will never promote or endorse or give away anything that I don't fully believe in. Also, if you like this video, that will help me out tremendously because that allows YouTube to see, hey, people like this video, let's show it to more people. So that's the best thing you can do to help out my page, because it literally changes the YouTube algorithm and how much it shows my videos to other people. So, on that note, also subscribe and follow me on Instagram. Let's get into this. So, fat fasting versus intermittent fasting. It's very clear that the only difference is that during an intermittent fast, you are not eating anything. You can consume black coffee, you can consume electrolytes, you can consume things that are non-caloric at all during your fasting window. Optimal times would be between 12 to 18 hours, but if you can push it closer to 20, you are going to receive more fat burning benefit. Now, the main thing that at least we've seen in research is that fat fasting has very similar effects, and it doesn't appear to downregulate autophagy, which is the cellular cleansing benefits you get during a fast. But I imagine that in the long run, it probably will if we're talking prolonged fast of multiple days. But that's not the topic of this video. Fat fasting allows you to get most of the benefits, and essentially, I would say very, very comparable amounts of fat burn based on your respective lifestyle. But here's the primary dictator of what's actually going to cause more fat burning for you. So, if you are somebody who is completely new to all this dieting stuff and you simply want to burn a lot of body fat, then you want to pick the easiest method for you. And for a lot of people, they cannot abstain from food for several hours if that's the baseline they're coming from. So the method that's going to bring you the best fat burn is going to be whatever is the easiest way to maximize the contrast between your previous diet and the fasting technique you pick. So what the hell does that mean? That means if you're somebody who's very overweight and you're used to eating a lot, then fat fasting is probably the easier way in, and because it's still a pretty big difference compared to what you were doing, you will most likely see lots of fat burning occurring. Now, if you're somebody who's been, already lean, you're 12% body fat and you want to get to 10 or 9, then, fat fasting might not provide as much of a drastic fat burn difference compared to intermittent fasting. That might be a point where the contrast between your previous lifestyle and the new technique you're going to use is not as deep. And the way you would actually shock your body and create that demand for fat burn would be to use intermittent fasting where you're not consuming anything. And this is a technique that I've detailed in future programs I'm writing for shredding down, getting absolutely ripped. And that's one of the key differentiators here. You always want to pick whatever's the easiest to adhere to, because adherence is the number one dictator of what your results will be, and consistency. But on that note, intermittent fasting would absolutely be a little bit better for fat burning, provided you could sustain it. Now, if you could not sustain it, here's where you want to dive into fat fasting. Fat fasting has a unique property of keeping people a little bit more satiated than intermittent fasting does. And that's, again, because you're able to consume some calories. You're able to give your body some extra energy without raising your insulin, because fat is very, very, very minimally insulinogenic, very, very subtly. You could argue a lot of fat sources won't even really make a difference in terms of your insulin. So why should you give a shit about insulin when you're fasting? Insulin is basically the primary determiner of fat burning. And basically, insulin is also referred to as the fat storage hormone. Whenever it is spiked, fat burning halts, okay? And essentially, it is the primary anabolic hormone in your body. And by anabolic, I mean it wants to build any tissue, fat, muscle, doesn't matter. So, when you spike that insulin with consuming, let's say you can't fast. It's hard for you to intermittent fast, but you want to have a little snack in the morning. If that snack is going to spike your insulin, you will be hungry later because you've already took your body out of a low insulin state downregulated the fat burning that's going on in that moment, and you've made it more likely for you to be hungry later, because when that insulin spike crashes, you are going to perceive a big difference, a big contrast in how you felt hours before. So you want to minimize the volatility of your insulin, and fat fasting and intermittent fasting will both do that. However, if you're already finding it hard to get into this territory of fasting, then fat fasting would absolutely be better. And I've explained this in my other videos, but essentially fat fasting is where you still intermittent fast, but you can consume predominantly oils and any other food that is basically solely fat. The thing that actually has helped people out during fat fasting as far as consuming actual food, the best food has probably been avocados. I've seen some people get good benefits with macadamia nuts. My other videos explain some of the better options, because the main thing is you want to minimize other macros that are in the food, because if you do that, you will not only trigger digestion if your body has to break down, the phytic acid of almonds, the shell, then that could pose a barrier. However, even if you're not fully doing fat fasting properly and you're simply eating fat and there's a little bit of protein in there, as long as there's no sugar or carbohydrate or anything like that your body would have to break down and trigger digestive enzyme release, then you're basically going to get the benefits of fat fasting. So again, my other videos explain foods that are optimal for that. But the main thing is here, as far as which form you should use, if you are a newbie and you just want to prioritize getting a routine in place, I absolutely recommend to start off with fat fasting, even if you're not perfect about it, even if you do stick to predominantly fat and protein. Granted, you should still try to minimize the protein, because a lot of protein can spike that insulin a little bit, but not as much as carbohydrate would. I have other videos explaining how realistically the training wheels that you could put on fat fasting, which fat fasting is already the training wheel version of intermittent fasting, would be to have fat and protein, and that won't cause a blood sugar, or it won't cause as much of a blood sugar and insulin spike in the morning, and that will make it easier to stick to whatever dietary plan you want to do. Now, intermittent fasting is absolutely the way to really step on the gas as far as fat burning goes. And I've experimented with so many different varieties when I'm in aggressive cutting phases, and there is nothing that actually does compare to switching that bulletproof coffee in the morning to a black coffee. It really can be the dictator of how your day goes in terms of total fat burnt. And I know this seems like I don't have a study here to dictate this. I have other videos that explain those things. I have programs coming out that will explain those things with proofs. But at the end of the day, this is also a newer developing area of technique. Fat fasting is not something that's been around for a while. Of course, fasting has. But it's kind of a little loophole, a little cheat code in the human biology, because it's rare that we would have found a food that was purely only fat. And we know that the effects of fat on hormones, particularly hunger hormones, insulin, leptin, and ghrelin, will produce basically a response that will not make you be hungry, yet it will still keep you satiated. It will give you some energy. Perhaps it might improve your workout performance if you're somebody who's trying to get into this and you don't have enough energy while you're using intermittent fasting. So fat fasting, again, is the training wheel version of this. Doesn't mean you still can't lose weight on a fat fasting approach. I actually believe it will for 90% of people. It's just that once you get to a very lean point, you will want to switch to intermittent fasting without any extra calories. Example, for myself, I am happy with my leanness, okay, currently. I'm not cutting aggressively. I like to maintain 9 or 10% body fat year-round while I'm lean bulking in a certain way, or just maintaining. And for me, getting the high-quality bulletproof coffee, which you should watch my video on why that will make you live longer and also get you shredded, and basically it provides a lot of beneficial nutrients that are key and foundational to my diet. So I will have a bulletproof coffee with nutrients, basically, and that is my fat fast for most days when I start off the day like that. However, I will find that that will keep me lean, and for most people will make you to lose weight rapidly. Once you get to a certain point of leanness, that will cut off, because you will want to put more demand on your body to burn its own stores of fat, and the one way you do that is by removing the energy-dense bulletproof coffee in the morning and switching it to a black coffee, if that makes sense. So, essentially, that is one of the primary dictators between a very aggressive cut and a more relaxed one. And that's another benefit of fat fasting, is that it's very maintainable. And once you get used to it, you will absolutely find that, you've started off on the right foot, because it's mostly about adherence and it will set things up in a very sustainable way. So watch my other videos to get more details on these things. I hope this video has been informational for you and, valuable for you. If it was, please like the video. That will help me out tremendously. And subscribe, and also follow me on Instagram. I'm Anthony Romano. Peace.